Hey, welcome to the show. Grab a seat, make it warm, and take it easy for a moment. So, Mega Man. This game makes me lose it, and I give that phrase a couple meanings. And I love Mega Man, it's one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. With its variety of genres of games within this one franchise, there's no wonder anyone can pick up a game out of the basket and just lose it over what they picked up. And that brings me back to what I said. While I love picking up a game from the Classic or X series, sometimes there are certain parts of those games that maybe I just want to tear my own hair out, or lose it, so to speak. Each game is built with its own individual ups and downs, regardless of the general opinions of the game itself, so I figured, hey, let's break down every game into segments and sort out what I like from least to best. Couldn't hurt anything, right? We all understand each other's opinions here on the internet, and don't ever take it personally. Yeah, so obviously don't get too upset if a level you enjoy gets thrown in the trash. I'm obviously going to have my opinions, but I'll try to be as fair as I can. And if you do get upset, then by all means, leave an angry comment. The algorithm will love that, and we love you for helping our channel grow. Friend. So, before we get started with the list, a quick disclaimer about this video. I understand some may have clicked this video thinking,
hey, this guy said he was reviewing every Mega Man level. Why is it only
26 minutes?
Why are there only levels from the first game on here?
Simple, my friend and/or enemy. I don't like calling the first game in a Series 1 because they technically aren't called that, and I'm incredibly stubborn in my ways, so sorry, but if it makes you feel better, I plan on doing this for the rest of the series as well. So your favorite game, Mega Man 8.5, will get its day in the spotlight eventually, I promise. Now, this isn't necessarily a review. The last thing we need is a perspective video from someone who's only been alive long enough to witness 3 mainline releases. Oh yeah, look, I'm sorry if I made you feel old. So, how am I ranking these? Well, there's not really any rules set in place for myself other than I'll be trying to rank the level and overall experience. If a game-breaking glitch is what does it for me, that counts towards the overall experience. If a tune is just so jammin' that I can't help but crack a smile while playing the stage, that counts towards overall experience as well. So the first Mega Man is divided into 10 levels, 6 Robot Master stages and 4 Dr. Wily stages. So I guess that counts as a top 10 list in a sense? Whatever, let's jump in. Last place at number 10 is a Rockman stage. Perhaps you see that, or perhaps you believe I'm overreacting right out of the gate. Regardless, I genuinely feel like a Rockman is the least impressive of this bunch of levels, Robot Master and Wily stages. And you see that right off the bat with this level. The very first screen of this stage starts you in one of the most frustrating screens of the entire game. One of. There is an element to this screen where the player can decide to commit to the dread of this level, or just commit die. But enough of this first screen, we have a whole level to look through, and by the time you're at the very next screen, you're introduced to the primary gimmick of a Rockman stage. Ladders. Oh yes, ladders. See, Rockman stage isn't even that long in regards to screen length, but because of the fact Mega Man climbs ladders so slowly in the first game, it feels like one of the longest levels in the entire game, and it's pretty easy to get knocked off a ladder and get sent down a screen or two, only to be at risk of getting hit again. While Rockman's traps and minions break your will the further up you climb through the stage, the world's most unfitting music plays to attack any remaining fragment of your willpower. Okay, maybe that's a bit over the top, but a Rockman's theme is riffing off a song or two and sometimes reaches points in pitch where it sounds as if the game is struggling to play it out from the system. So you make your way through the first section of the stage and it results in, yeah, these. If you've ever played a Mega Man game, you know them. I honestly don't hate these very much. While dropping off of one sends you down about 2 screens south, just taking 1 second to study them gives you an idea of how to traverse them safely. It's this section that bothers me. Several times have I tiptoed across just a bit too frantically, causing me to overstep this tight yet linear corridor. I don't know if I should be pissed at the game or myself for that though, so I'll let this one slide for now. About halfway through the level, you're introduced to a blocked off section with an item inside, the Magnet Beam. It's a mandatory item to complete the game, and you need either Gutsman or a Rockman's special weapon to get rid of the blocks obstructing it. I think, debatably, this very well could qualify as the worst level in the game just in a vacuum because of this. Also, as a side note, the level's garish orange colors makes it really hard to even notice these are destructible blocks. So, after traversing the rest of the level with your new Magnet Beam, or not if you can't get it yet, you'll notice some copy and pasted section from before you got the Magnet Beam, or at least past the Magnet Beam if you aren't equipped enough. By the end of the level, you meet a Big Eye, the most inconveniently placed 3-hit kill enemy in the franchise, besides Elecman. Oh hey, how about that? Okay, so if you die here, you get the dumbest gut punch in the entire game. It almost feels worse than restarting the whole level after a game over just because of how taunting it is. The checkpoint is right here. The copied section? Please let it be the copy and pasted section, for the love of God, please don't make me do the climbing again. Oh, what the f- Okay, so 2 more things. We've lingered on this level long enough, but the first Mega Man comes with hallways before each boss. You could say it's to farm for energy if you run out of it during a fight, which I actually admire, because otherwise there's a risk of redoing the stage over again. Except Elecman stage doesn't have farmable enemies! You only get these electric currents. At least Elecman dies in just 3 hits to the rolling cutter, but you also die in 3 hits from the Elec Beam, which has a straighter and bigger hitbox. Overall, beginning to end, this is one of my least favorite levels in all of Mega Man. Not even this game, like the entire series. There's one good thing about this, and not to sound cheesy, but it's the end of it. Genuinely no other level has the satisfaction of peaking a mountainous climb as this one. It's fitting seeing all the climbing we did just to get to this point. And our number 9 best / number 2 worst spot is Dr. Wily's Stage 4. Careful, by the way, this is the last Wily level, so don't spoil yourself on this 1986 video game. The ending is very breathtaking. Dr. Wily's Stage 4 is one of the shortest in the game. The level starts off in an Elecman stage type layout, which, no. Please God, no, let's get this out of the way ASAP. Afterwards are some choppy corridors, narrow and easy to get hit in. My favorite. There's one of these platforms that you see in Gutsman's stage as well that are pretty frustrating, but there's only one, and you've got the magnet beam this time around. It's quite manageable, especially by this point in the game, but that's where the decency in the level ends, because from here on out, there's nothing but 4 bosses back to back, an energy capsule, and a checkpoint, and then Dr. Wily. And his second form, because why not? And I mean, that's fine. I've never hated Dr. Wily having multiple forms with no break in between. It's a genuine final challenge, and I never hated the boss rushes in the franchise when you're fully juiced and equipped. It hits differently than facing them from scratch, like in their respective levels, but that's when you don't have to fight all of them without any progress between fights. The first game has 4 of the 6 Robot Masters in a non-stop gauntlet, with only a checkpoint at the beginning and the end of it. It's just odd and forced in here. I'm sure there's a reason for this, but why is there only 4? Why did they leave it in if they couldn't fit Cutman and Elecman in this level? So, Wily's Stage 4 as a concept isn't very enjoyable. It's a real shame because this is the final level of the game. It feels less like a final push and more of a task. A task you don't have to finish, but you beat 3 Wily stages by this point, so you better not call quits here. Speaking of other Wily stages, Wily 4 borrows music from Wily Stage 3. Kinda lazy, but it works for the tone of this level. Plus, both levels are short, so you don't have to listen to it for very long prior to the stage. Plus, the music just fits the atmosphere, which is amplified by the wariness and dread of the industrial appearance. It's dark and moody, and where there's color, it's all steel and metal. It truly looks like a manufactured hazardous fortress for this period of games on the NES. I genuinely enjoy it, even today. And lastly, for this stage, the final boss. It's fine. It's frustrating, but fine. It's kind of refreshing seeing a boss's attacks change up halfway through, though. But even then, it's the same idea. Dodge balls and shoot back. Or cheat. That too. That can be fun. Have you ever thought about this from Dr. Wily's perspective? It's gotta be like nearly instant for him. Poor guy. Now I just feel bad. At stage rank number 8, we have Wily Stage 1. This level marks the end of what I would find to be the fundamentally broken levels. On one hand, Wily Stage 1 is a good introduction to the fortress itself. The first level alone introduces several obstacles that either require or request usage of special items. On the other hand, this is the only level in the entire game which requires the magnet beam, making completing the level impossible until you've obtained it. Something as roadblocky as this should probably place this level at 10 instead of Elecman, you might think, but I actually have more fun with this level. There's this frustrating platform section in the lower section of the stage, there's these fire pillars you have to stop perfectly, and there's 3 big eyes in the front of the stage. Remember, each hit from these is a third of your health. But utilizing all the weapons you get up to this level can be fun. Freezing the big eyes on their big jumps is satisfying just to clear a path and take the passive route. Ripping a door through the front of the fortress using the Guts Arm or Thunder Beam is satisfying in a sense. Using your Ice Slasher to freeze the fire reaches a feeling of achievement. Navigating spikes in the risky platforming is fun and complicated, except this section, just use the Magnet Beam. And the boss is... Oh no. No, never mind the boss. I think everyone hates this asshole. Yellow Devil is an absolute pain. Dodging the pattern of his slime gloops can be fun and satisfying, but it's unfair to anyone unsuspecting. And the fact you can only get 1 hit in per round of slime slopping is pretty aggravating. Unless you cheat. I won't tell anyone. I do admire the background of this boss, though. The solid black amplifies the creepiness of the slime beast as well as the fortress itself. This is one of my favorite looking levels in the Wily Fortress, as it just feels as industrial as the previous level mentioned. I would put this level higher if I could find myself to ignore the fact that it requires an optional item, but alas, that flaw sticks. So, number 8 it goes. Iceman stage is at number 7. Maybe someone else has a better time with this stage, but I wouldn't necessarily say we're into the threshold of overall enjoyable levels quite yet. Iceman stage starts off with ice physics, which are fine. They work here. Other than a single platform later on, it's always in long sections, allowing much room to slip and slide around and just have some fun with it. But that's only one gimmick that this level throws at the player. Aside from that, you get water sections that don't change your buoyancy, but just slow you down. You get these disappearing blocks, which, while I don't hate these here, they don't instantly drop you in a pit like in later games. I do hate the order that they appear in. The first challenge is dodging the sweeper at the bottom of the screen, with no way of regaining your footing unless you have a weapon to destroy it. The second gives you a place to rest and study the block pattern one by one before jumping into the danger that patrols below. Once that's over though, the player is brought to the most irritating section of the game. Even with the Magnet Beam, this section is pure hell. You have the original Mega Man Fall Physics, which send you beelining to the center of the Earth. You get platforms that stutter and move left and right and up and down based on RNG, and they shoot at you. These are also in the previously mentioned level, but this is where they're introduced, and there's a chance you might not even have the Magnet Beam when you get to it. Halfway through this section is the only small platform in this entire level, and after that is another section just like this, but with these penguins that knock you back. You will almost be required to have the Magnet Beam just to pass this section, unless you want your hair torn from the roots. And as one final slap in the back of the head, there is a big eye just after this section. I guess you could use the Ice Slasher on it. Oh wait. So you get past it, and Iceman's Corridor is one of the most manageable in the game. It's just a hallway with some oncoming penguins. You can even farm them from a still position. As for Iceman himself, he's an easy fight, but he hits real cheaply. One hit is a third health, just like a Lekman, or the Big Eyes, which there was one of earlier. But if it really comes down to it, you can always use the pause glitch on him. It's not like you can't. Iceman's stage is a nice, bright blue, icy paradise by the looks of it. And the music isn't half bad, but the level is pure frustration. Well, it all goes uphill from here. Technically it's been that way already, but numbers 6 to 1 are levels where I personally actually have an enjoyable time. Number 6, we got the third Wily stage on this list, and it's the third Wily stage itself. This level always interested me since I played it for the first time. It's unique. I mean, first off, besides the disgusting colors of this stage, we're introduced to a questionable enemy placement, but some weary-ass music. This stage forwards a tone that you have an idea of what's ahead, but in reality, you don't know what it is. And you're hit in the face with that when you get to the bottom of the stage, and whoa! Mega Man is getting flushed down the corridor with some actual water physics of the sorts. Hell, I'll take this over Iceman stage any day. So this level is fun, it's short, and there's a nice challenge of dodging at a certain pace. Once that's over though, you get to the boss, which is the worst part of this stage. I can't say factually, but I almost feel like I could prove that this boss is bad. What I can prove for sure though, is that this boss's weakness is the Guts Arm. And there are only 4 Guts Arm blocks here. And they don't respawn. And this boss gets faster and faster the more you kill it. And you can only dodge it with the Guts Arm blocks. It actually sucks. But hey, once the boss is killed, you're off to the last level. Though I guess I've kind of made that seem like a bad thing now that I think about it. Trailing the second half of the pack at number 5, Gutsman's stage exists. It's probably the hardest of these last 5 levels, not over length or anything, but over one section that you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that one. This section is probably the worst offense of the original Mega Man fall physics in this entire game, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's literally the second section of the level, just after a couple Mets, which I think only show up in this level now that I think of it. That's kind of odd. This level is also home to another unique enemy, the, Picklemen? Picklemen. They're called Picklemen? Either way, they're always placed in a challenging but never unfair spot. The least fair spot of this level to me has to be, that... Jeez, I always hated these luck-based falls. On one side you land safely, on the other, if you don't react fast enough, you're scrap metal. And then right after that is... But Gutsman's stage is a pretty short but intense ride, all things considered. Gutsman himself is a pretty fair fight, but pretty irritating if you get locked into his ground-pounding attack. But there's also slight irritation with the fact Gutsman's weakness takes time to go off, and... Wait, why does Gutsman have Guts Arm blocks in his boss chamber? Never mind that. Questionable layout aside, the level looks industrial in a more colorful and fun way than a couple of the Wily stages. It definitely works for Gutsman's, you know, theme. And the music you get with the level matches the aesthetic pretty well. It's a challenge, but it's enjoyable with only a slight inconvenience or two. And that's why it's the ass of the best 5. And we can cross the Wily stages off the list now because number 4 is Wily Stage 2. This is one of the less stress-inducing Wily stages with the most stable design, though you will notice that there are several sections of copy and pasted level design as you go through. It can be a little easy to forget what part of the level you're even at, even though it's a straight path from start to finish. The challenge here is pretty fair though, even offering a small challenge for some extra energy pickups. Some of them are even in plain sight, easy to get- Whoa, hey! Oh god. Yeah, part of Wily Stage 2's gimmicks, I suppose, is that you have a kind of mini boss rush. I think they just couldn't fit a Like-Man and Cut-Man into the last level, that or they found it too hard or didn't want to just scrap them. Like, Cut-Man doesn't even have Guts Arm blocks in his room, so that kinda sucks, now doesn't it? Ah, well, he's easy as hell. Aside from those two things, the challenge in any section that isn't a boss room is either dodging several different enemies to a pace or evaluating the best way to drop down a vertical section without getting hit. It's pretty good. Sure, the level is ugly and borrows music from the first Wily stage, but it still fits here, and even the putrid colors... I don't know, I feel like they fit here. I don't entirely expect Wily's Fortress to look like a masterpiece, especially since this is the only game where we don't see Wily's Fortress from the outside. Except Mega Man and Bass. We'll get to it. And lastly, the boss to this level. This boss is cool as hell. It's you! You're cool! You're the cool boss that I'm talking about! Okay, fine, it's Copy Mega Man. He mimics any weapon that you select, which is a neat concept, but unfortunately, all that means is you can select Guts Arm or Magnet Beam and then just nail him with the pause glitch. It's a pretty solid level though. Not many frustrations at all, but a bit lacking at worst. And we're in the top 3 now, starting with Bombman's stage. Bombman's stage is one of the 2 or 3 recommended levels to start off on, and it leaves a pretty good impression on the first screen. Just look at this. I don't even know what's going on in the background, but it's real fun and futuristic looking. God, I can't wait for 2004. I'm going to get the worst parts of this level out of the way real quick. This cheaply placed enemy here, which can knock you into the spikes and kill you instantly even with your invincibility frames. this section in the boss corridor, because sometimes you can get hit just by falling and sometimes not. The fact you can't farm energy in said boss corridor. And lastly, the fact that the level copy and pastes a couple sections, but other than that, I think the goods outweigh the bads here. The music for this level is alright enough. I'd say it's fitting enough for the level, but I wouldn't ever jam out to it in my free time by any means. The enemy placement in this level is excellent, aside from this one. You're usually introduced to an enemy before you can get cheap shot by them, so there's always a moment of evaluating when you can jump into the open. This level also introduces the iconic Sniper Joes to the series. Coming face to face with one always feels like a game of chess. Thinking steps ahead will get you past them easier, and sometimes that requires being patient for the moment. The layout of enemies is also fair and fun mostly. Like, look at this section, for example. The precise platforming rewards you with an easier time, requiring one skill or another to get across this screen. Though this is the section that is copy and pasted later on, which the pasted section isn't the case as much. Bomb Man himself is a fun fight. He jumps, launches bombs, and jumps again. But it's extremely fun and satisfying to get a few shots in on Bomb Man while dodging the blast radius of his bombs. Even getting hit feels okay because it's simple to regain your balance. It's a good level nearly all around. That just about goes without saying as it's in the top 3 though. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Since I'm ranking every level, there's no element of surprise for the number 1 spot when I reveal number 2. Cool, deal with it! Number 2 is Cutman's stage. First of all, name a level that's more iconic than this one. It's the stage almost anyone chooses first. The level select screen literally starts you on his stage, which, by the way, props to the level select. I should give that the number 1 spot. Okay, but Cutman's stage. This level is fun. I actually had a hard time making this one ranked at number 2 because the whole level feels like an absolute playground. The Suzy enemies are utilized in this level's design very well, obstructing the player from getting past until it's gone or just until the player can bypass it. Plus, these things are just so fundamentally fun. Look at them! They're goofy dudes! Now, there is a copy and paste section in here, which sucks, and oh god, no. But this level's layout is fun regardless. This level also has this hut with scissors flying out, which is so dumb and cartoony, I love it. I can say this though, Cutman's stage is a little bland. The music is pretty cartoony like the enemies, but the level itself is so bland looking in the background. So when Cutman's stage is complete, you come across one of the most fair boss corridors. It's these spinning things, and Cutman himself is a fair fight. His weakness is the Guts Arm though, and as stated before, those blocks do not respawn. On this note, Cutman's stage is filled with Guts Arm blocks, making an absolute playground of just screwing around if you choose to take that challenge of going Guts Arm only. Overall, the stage is iconic, the theme is iconic, the boss is iconic. Number 2. It's Fireman. Yeah, it's no real surprise at this point since it's the last one to be mentioned, but I love this level. In fact, I'll go as far to say that there's one flaw with this stage. That one flaw being the short section where not getting hit by fire is nearly impossible. It's still possible though, and you can get by with the magnet beam no problem. Granted, you may not have that if you're playing the level, which is where you're forced into pixel-perfect timing. It's part of the chaos. This whole level is chaos. Even Fireman himself resembles chaos. The music is excellent and fired up while maintaining that cartoony feel of the other themes. The background itself goes from a glowing red factory in areas to darkened void backgrounds, and this void looks the greatest in this stage. I'm a sucker for monochrome color palettes, with red in the mix though, so don't hurt me if you disagree. Also, the enemies and hazards are cartoony and bright. Like, look at these fireballs. You tell me that's not fun looking. It looks pissed off, but it looks fun, so it's okay. It can hate me all at once. I love this thing. This level is also one of the best examples of using the weapons you've obtained to make the stage more manageable. Thunder Beam clears enemies from above and below, Magnet Beam makes challenging pits easy to traverse, Rolling Cutter takes great care of these fireballs that fall from above, and Ice Slasher freezes fire columns in place. Don't ask me how it works. Using these tricks will even grant the player bonuses at times, which feels fantastic. There's this one weird glitchy spot in the stage where the layout goes to the bottom of the screen, and sometimes I've fallen through this and just clipped through the wall, while other times I'll just walk around on top like the floor decided to show up. It's weird, but nothing too bad unless you zip the wrong way into the lava, I guess. Just hold the ladder if you do. Fireman's boss corridor is not much different than Cutman, which means you can farm energy easily or just clear the room easily. And at the end of the hallway is Fireman himself. He's not very hard, just sporadic with his movements. He shoots fire when you jump, or shoot, I believe, and spawns a fireball where you just were. I wouldn't hate this fight at all if they got rid of the fireball because it just creates more clutter to an already adrenaline-induced fight, but it's not the worst by any means. Fireman is manageable Buster only, but be careful if you try anyway. Either way, the stage is the most fun of all, and that's why it gets the #1 ranking. So that ends ranking every level from Mega Man, at least the first one. If you agree with the list, I think that's fantastic. But if you disagree, I'm very curious to hear what you find different. This is more of an opinion piece after all, so your word is just as good as mine. So feel free to comment what you think. That's always welcome. So if you'd like to see more of these videos, likes are always welcome, and hell, consider subscribing for the occasional video. We won't bite you. And without further delay, thank you so very much for watching. Have a good night, at the very least have a night, and take it easy.